Member of Parliament for Swami and the Legal Counsel of the Minority Caucus in Parliament, said the situation contravened Article 60 of the Constitution, which required the Speaker of Parliament to be sworn in as acting president when both the president and vice president were absent. However, in this case, the Speaker was also outside the country and Chief Justice Getty Tokono is currently under suspension, the statement pointed out. The constitutional provisions on presidential succession are explicit. Whenever both the president and the vice president are absent from the country, the Speaker of Parliament must be sworn in to act as president. This interpretation has been affirmed by the Supreme Court in the landmark case of Asari versus Attorney General. The court held that no point should a nation be left without a constitutionally designated acting head of state. In the absence of both the president and vice president, the Speaker must resume that role. It is a matter of public record that the Speaker of Parliament departed the jurisdiction on 8th May 2025. The President is fully aware of this fact and also aware of his Vice President and who had traveled earlier to seek medical attention abroad. Nonetheless, proceeded to leave the country without taking steps to ensure the Chief Justice administered the oath to the Speaker to act as President, as mandated by the Constitution. It described the situation as a deliberate and calculated act, accusing the government of treating the Constitution as an inconvenience rather than a binding framework. The minority warned that such constitutional infractions posed a serious threat to Ghana's democratic foundation and governance, will hold the president and his vice accountable to their oath of office, which demand fidelity to the Constitution where necessary, which shall invoke the relevant provisions of law to ensure that constitutional breaches do not go unpunished. The minority self-noticed. Now, Professor Kweku Azar has written quite extensively on this matter. He disagrees, flatly with the position which has been canvassed by the minority. But I'll read that maybe in the course of the conversation. I don't know what you make of this. Eugene, I don't know, did you follow that press conference?
Yeah, well, I did not.
Okay.
I was quite busy yesterday.
That's fine.
But my experience in the House, that's the House of Parliament,
right,
is that any time the President traveled, the Speaker read the message as part of his messages from the presidency.
Yeah.
Informing members and the entire nation that the person has traveled. But you see, there's a caveat here. The caveat is, if the president traveled while Parliament is not in session, and the letter is sent from Jubilee House to Parliament House, who then reads that? Who then reads it out? You understand?
Yeah.
So there's a vacuum there. But the minority also has a point, because there must be a constitutionally designated head of state at all times before the army steps in or somebody steps in and says, look, I've taken over the country. You understand? That's why there must be, because you are the president and also the commander-in-chief. You understand? So those powers are conferred on you, and you must act if there's an emergency or what have you. But these things, because of their constitutional creation, it finds a way to kill itself. But yes, if indeed all these three personalities were out of the country, then it fell on the acting chief justice to then be sworn in. You just assume, you just swear him in to confer the authority of the state on him to act. So I'm sure that's what the minority is referring to. So there's a lacuna, and that lacuna is what the minority is referring to.
Right.
That in future there shouldn't be such occurrence. If the president is out of the country, the president is out. We must, whoever is supposed to take over, if the vice president has already been sworn in. If the speaker too has already been sworn in, but maybe for the sake of the cameras and what have you, he must officially be sworn in to take over. So we are learning.
Okay.
We are learning.
But you think that going forward, as we're amending our constitution, it is something that we must bring some clarity on?
Yes. This constitution, I believe, has outlived its usefulness.
Okay.
There are so many gaps. You see, sometimes when I talk about these things with passion, you see, under the Fourth Republic, how many lawyers have served a president? How many lawyers? The lawyers are more than the non-lawyers. Yeah. If you take Rawlings,
so there's not the Kufo and Professor Mills.
They were the only non-lawyers.
Yeah.
All the others are lawyers.
Yeah.
And why we are still operating this constitution is beyond me. It's that when we all get into office, we find it so cozy, and we don't want to tamper with it. We find overbearing powers conferred on you as untouchable, so that we don't want to touch on it. What is it? Because if anything, these are documents produced by lawyers. And they must do justice to it. And we must do justice to a lot of the things in there.
All right.
Because I don't want to use the words of Mr. Kwesi Pratt by saying it's backward. But obviously it has lived its usefulness. It's 32 years down the line. I think President Mills came and set up a committee.
Yeah.
Professor Fiajo, is it?
Fiajo.
Yeah.
And
then
executive
something came
secretary
out
was Satogoba.
that was left. President Kufuor at the latter part of the administration. I even attended the workshop in a place before Eburi.
Okay.
We went there. We spent days there. And then President Mahama too has done same. So let's do something serious about this constitution. It's not about tweaking. It's about doing serious work to the national constitution.
Right.
Yes.
Okay. Okay.
Well, I mean, this morning, as a result of this controversy, I've been pouring through the Constitution.
Okay.
And nowhere in the Constitution is it stated that the Chief Justice can act in the absence of the President. I've gone through
I'll say the letter and the spirit.
But nowhere in this Constitution is it stated that the Chief Justice can act in the absence of the President. That's my first point. Now, the second point I want to make simply is this. That where the Constitution says that in the absence of the President and the Vice President, the Speaker ought to act as President. I think the Constitution is referring to whoever is performing the functions of the Speaker constitutionally.
Right.
So in the absence of the Speaker, the first Deputy Speaker automatically becomes Speaker and is qualified to perform the duties of President in the absence of the President. That is on the basis of what is provided for in the Constitution.
Right.
Okay. Yes, clearly. Okay. Now, the other point I want to make is that this Constitution, old-fashioned, outdated, doesn't recognize the technological era in which we are, and so on. You see, some time ago, if you wanted to make a telephone call to London, wherever you were in Ghana, you will go to High Street.
Central Post Office.
High Street, the telecom office there.
Oh, okay.
PMT.
Go and pay for the call.
In advance.
And book the call. Sometimes it took 6 hours for the call to come through.
Yes.
So the clerk there will tell you to come. You go there in the morning, 6 a.m. The clerk there will tell you the call will come through at 1 p.m.
Yes, you have to wait.
So you have to go home and come
or wait.
Or wait.
If you are from a distance.
to make the call to London. You understand? That's how bad the situation was.
Yeah.
It was around that time that this constitution was crafted. Today, no matter where the president is, and as I was telling you, the president can be in Konsomokaya. He can still effectively run this country for Konsomokaya. Why? Zoom conferences, even WhatsApp, instant telephoning, you see his picture, everything. The speaker can actually conduct the business of parliament from Rome or from Kabul in Afghanistan.
It's been done. Our last training program at Rock City.
Yeah.
The speaker was not on the premises, but
He joined you digitally.
yes, it can be done.
So this constitution is so old and outmoded.
Yeah.
And this is what some of our people are dwelling on to hold press conferences and so on. This constitution needs to change those provisions. Why? So when the president goes to Togo, he's no longer the president of Ghana. When he goes to Togo, or when he takes one step out of Aflao, because one step out of Aflao takes him out of Ghana.
Yes.
He's no longer president of Ghana.
Yes.
Does that make sense, my brother? Does that make sense?
For me, the other thing to it.
Does that make sense, my brother?
Well, I get the point you're making.
Yeah.
I get the point you're making.
So let's be realistic.
Yeah, I get the point you're making.
The president is the president wherever he is. So if the president goes to Washington,
Yes. Yes.
or he goes to Moscow, his powers as president are taken from him. He's no longer acting as president. Well, what is that? Let's be realistic and stop this.
But how about those who say that, regardless of whatever opinion you hold, it still remains the prevailing legal position as formulated by the nation's apex court. And I
No,
talked
that's the
about
right
the
position.
Asari.
That's
Asari
the right,
representative
until the Constitution has been amended.
Yes.
It is the Constitution, and it has to be adhered to.
Okay.
And they were giving 3 months, eh?
What?
The committee were given 3 months. Was it given 3 months to work?
3 months? You mean the Professor Kwesi Pratt
yeah.
committee? Yeah, 3 months. It's 3 months.
Time is up.
I believe so. I'm sure the next few days.
Oh, no, few days. Time is up.
Time is up.
Yes.
We may have to check that.
Yes.
We may have to check. Because the government itself is 4 months old.
We are in May.
Okay.
Today is the 14th
true.
of May.
Yeah, but that's a good one. We may have to follow
We
up.
have to prompt
yes. But for me, there are even practical challenges with even what the Constitution is saying. Because, yes, quite apart from what Uncle Kwesi has said about, so if the president is out of the jurisdiction, for instance, if he's in Togo, does he cease to be president and so on? But if you hand over the reign of power to, say, the Chief Justice or, say, the Speaker of Parliament, what can he do and what can he not do? So, for instance, he decides... Yes. So today he decides to sack all the ministers appointed by President Mahama. Can President Mahama come and reverse it?
He can come and reverse it, because when he comes back...
Yeah, but look at the total confusion and the chaos.
No,
that's the point I'm making.
If you have... And I know that all the experiences we've had in the past up till now...
Yeah, we've not experienced that.
We haven't had a madman as speaker yet. You understand? And I don't foresee
that happening anytime soon.
With a complete loony as speaker. But you can't always be sure. You
true.
Understand?
That's true.
There may be a day when a perfectly normal, rational person, within hours and minutes, can turn into a raving lunatic.
True.
And when that happens and that person is clothed with the powers of the president,
wow,
what he can do. Yeah. The president is going to Abidjan for 3 days. By the time he comes, his entire cabinet should have been sacked.
All the service commanders changed.
All the service commanders changed. Yeah. Everything. He comes to an entirely new country.
Yeah.
That's possible.
He may not even come back.
You can't fault him.
You may not even come back.
You
but
have entrusted executive power.
It will only take a lunatic to do that.
Yeah, but you just said that it's possible for us to have
a lunatic. It is possible. Yes. But it will only take a lunatic to do that.
Yeah, that's true.
But it can be done.
Anyway.